Wrath, the deadly sin of revenge. Punishment for the sin of wrath, being torn apart limb from limb or dismembered alive. Wrath is defined as an uncontrolled, intense, and often vengeful rage that seeks to harm those who have offended you. This differentiates from the righteous anger, which is proportional, rational response to injustice. While anger can be a neutral emotion, wrath is a sin of allowing that anger to fester and boil over into a destructive desire for revenge. The concept of wrath is a deadly sin, has a long history in Christianity with roots in both biblical warnings and later theological classifications. Biblical roots: Cain and Abel is a prime example, when Cain's seething anger leads him to murder his brother. And the New Testament also has strong warnings, such as Paul's admonition in Ephesians 4:31 to get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger. Theological classification: it was classified as Pope Gregory I as a deadly sin. It's labeled a deadly sin because of spiritual poison that leads to a variety of other sins, as all the other deadly sins. They're deadly because they lead to other sins. It destroys charity and forgiveness. Wrath is the direct opposite of love and forgiveness. It replaces a desire for reconciliation with a desire for vengeance. Leads to destructive actions. Uncontrolled anger can lead to other sins: violence, murder, slander, unforgiveness. Not only harms the person who is the object of the rage, but it also consumes the one who is angry, making them miserable. It upsets God's role in Christian worldview. Vengeance belongs to God. Romans 12:19 says, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay," says the Lord. When a person gives in to wrath, they're acting as their own judge, jury, and executioner, effectively placing themselves in God's position. This is a form of spiritual pride. Wrath is a spiritual sin, which means it's a sin of your will. It's something you think. It's not a sin of your body. Psychological motives. Wrath often arises from a deep-seated feeling of vulnerability, insecurity, and fear. Wounded pride and ego. The most common motive for wrath is perceived insult or personal attack that wounds a person's pride. When someone feels disrespected, shamed, or humiliated, their anger can quickly escalate into a desire for revenge. This furious outburst is often a desperate attempt to restore a sense of control and superiority that was lost in the perceived slight. A sense of injustice. Anger, when righteous, is a normal response to injustice. However, wrath corrupts this emotion, turning to a personal quest for vengeance. The motive here is belief that great wrong has been done to oneself or others, and that the only way to right that wrong is through destruction or punishment. This kind of wrath is often blind and disproportionate to actual offense. Fear or helplessness. Sometimes wrath is a reaction to a situation where a person feels powerless. When they cannot control a person or outcome, they lash out in anger as a way to vent their frustration and assert some kind of power, even if it's destructive. This can be seen as a person who responds to bad news or a difficult situation with a violent outburst. Spiritual motives. Usurping God's role. The ultimate motive of wrath is to take on the role of judge and executioner. The furious individual believes they must punish the offender themselves rather than leaving vengeance to God. This is an act of profound spiritual pride, as it denies God's sovereignty and wisdom. Lack of forgiveness. Wrath is unwilling to forgive. It's a desire to hold on a grudge and allow it to consume you. Forgiveness requires humility and a recognition that you are not perfect, a notion that's antithetical to wrath. Unresolved hurt. Unchecked anger stems from unhealed emotional wounds. Instead of addressing the source of pain, people may choose to express their hurt through wrath, lashing out at others in a way to externalize their inner turmoil. The motive is to inflict the same pain they feel in the person that they believe that they caused on them. To curb wrath, you must address spiritual and emotional roots. of your anger by cultivating self-control, practicing forgiveness, and focusing on empathy rather than vengeance. Cultivate self-control. Pause and pray. When you feel anger, stop and take a moment before you speak or act. Use this pause to pray, asking God to control your emotions and see the situation from a new perspective. Remove yourself. If you're in a situation making you angry, remove yourself from it. Take a walk. Go to another room. Find a way to cool down before you engage further. This prevents you from saying or doing something you'll regret. Practice humility. A lot of wrath comes from wounded pride. By humbling yourself, you can prevent anger from taking root. When someone offends you, try to see the situation from their perspective, to remember a time when you made a similar mistake, or just let it go. Practice forgiveness. Forgive freely. Forgiveness is not about condemning or condoning the offense, but about releasing yourself from the emotional prison of resentment. Pray for the person who offended you. Make a conscious choice to let go of your anger, even if you still feel the hurt. Bless your enemies. The Christian team, bless those who curse you. Luke 6:28. Instead of seeking revenge, pray for the well-being of the person who angered you. This act of love directly attacks malice and as hard as wrath. Focus on empathy and love. Wrath is an inward-looking sin that focuses on your own pain. You must direct focus outward to others. Consider their circumstances. Try to understand why the person acted that way. Maybe they were stressed, hurting, simply made a mistake. The sympathetic perspective can turn your anger into compassion. Prioritize reconciliation. Instead of seeking a win or to win an argument or punish a defender, make your goal reconciliation and peace. This turns a desire for vengeance into a desire for love, which is the ultimate cure for wrath. The punishment of being torn apart limb by limb is a historical form of execution meant to inflict maximum pain and public humiliation. There is no modern legal equivalent, as this practice, known as disembowelment or drawing and quartering, has been outlawed. However, the intent behind this gruesome punishment, the complete physical and social destruction of an individual, is echoed in modern acts of extreme violence and metamorphical public shame. Physical and psychological equivalents. While direct use of punishment is not part of any legal code, its brutality is mere acts of torture and extreme violence carried out by non-state actors or in black sites. Extreme torture and some illegal and clandestine operations. Torture methods are designed to cause unimaginable pain and break an individual's will. The goal is to destroy a person's physical and mental integrity, like being torn apart. Symbolic. Dismemberment in a metamorphical sense, the modern can be found in acts of public shame and online harassment, tear apart a person's reputation, career, and social standing, seen as a council culture where a person's entire life and career are publicly destroyed. Historical context. The punishment of being torn limb by limb was historically used for severe crimes like high treason. It was a spectacle intended to deter others by showing the complete destruction of the traitor's body. In medieval England, a traitor was often drawn, dragged behind a horse, hanged, cut down before death, then quartered, his body cut into 4 pieces before being publicly displayed. This public dismemberment went on to convey that the individual committed an act so vile they are no longer considered a whole person of a dignified death. Today, while the message has changed, the motive of using extreme public suffering as a form of punishment or revenge still exists in various forms of violence and social destruction.